It's not as if this is the first time politics has been injected into international affairs. I think this is another step beyond all of those things you're talking about, because this is, 47 of 54 Republican senators. So this is basically the majority of the Senate speaking in one voice, moving in a very specific way to undercut the executive. And so I think it's by matter of degree that it doesn't have a precedent.
All right, folks, welcome to Give Me Five. That was Dana Milbank on this show on Friday. We made some news with this. Dana Milbank saying there's no precedent for what the 47 Republicans did by writing the letter to the Ayatollahs in Iran, which is nonsense, utter nonsense. He says just because there were 47 of them that there's no precedent. Now, of course, there's plenty of precedent, which I'll get to in a second, but here's some more of what Dana said. So Ted Kennedy, one of the most powerful men in the Senate at that time, writing to the Soviet Union to interfere with the '84 election, to try to help them to make Reagan look bad so they could kick Reagan out of office, or the Senate, the Congress people, including the majority leader of the House, sending a letter, Dear Commandante, to Noriega because they disagreed with Reagan's policy towards Nicaragua. I mean, just because it was 10 and not 47, there's no analogy to be made?
Well, I mean, you can analogize anything.
Well, I do, and I did. And let's not forget Nancy Pelosi. And there's a whole list of times, and it's always been Democrats, where the Democrats have interfered, if you want to call it that, in foreign policy, or injected themselves into foreign policy. I mean, going to, writing to the Soviet Union to try to enlist their help in defeating Ronald Reagan? Writing a letter, Dear Commandante, because you don't agree with Reagan's policy? And Nancy Pelosi going to Syria when Bush said don't go? No analogy? Because this is 47 senators? And John Kerry was very disrespectful to the man who authored that letter, Tom Cotton, who's a veteran. I know John Kerry has no use for soldiers and veterans, but that was disgusting the way he referred to him so dismissively over the weekend. Now, he wasn't alone. Here's Howard Dean.
I'm very surprised at this. First of all, I was very surprised McCain signed the letter in the first place. I mean, he gets what you're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. He was a prisoner of war in Hanoi for a very long time, and I don't think he probably liked it very much when Jane Fonda went over there and had a few things to say, and I think this is somewhat similar.
This is similar to Jane Fonda supporting the enemy? Jane Fonda reportedly taking notes that veterans, that prisoners of war had slipped to her, and she gave them to the enemy? This is similar? Only to a man who would go, yeah! Could it be similar? More.
And I think Cotton doesn't get it. Cotton is a veteran. He had a decorated career in the Army. He's a Rhodes Scholar. Of all people, he should know that you don't do this. I mean, if you serve in the Army with a commander-in-chief, you don't do this. You can disagree. I don't disagree with what he said. He has a right to say that. To give comfort to the enemy, which is the hard line in Iran, I think was shocking. Just shocking.
Were you shocked when Pelosi went to Syria? Were you shocked when Ted Kennedy wrote to the Soviet Union? Were you shocked when the senators wrote, Dear Commandante? I guess that wasn't shocking because they were Democrats. Yeah! And here's Andrea Mitchell to Jen Psaki. Watch.
As the president said, this is nearly unprecedented. It's bringing into question what has been precedent for hundreds of years, back to when members of Congress were riding horse and buggies to do their jobs. So it really does bring into question whether they want to see a deal, whether they want to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon, and that's, of course, what our objective is here.
A precedent set back to when they were riding horse and buggies to Congress. Guess she doesn't know her history either. Man, but horse and buggy reminds me of Kramer on Seinfeld. Jerry said, what does the whip do? He said, well, in the old days, if you didn't vote the way the party wanted you to, they whipped you. You better vote with us. Maybe that's what she's talking about on the Steve Malzberg Show.